Hi there, I'm Professor Tim Spector from the ZOE COVID Study, and I'm delighted to announce the big news this week is that the NHS, helped by the government, have finally updated their list of symptoms. Hooray! It's been a long time I've been talking about this, and it's something we've been pushing the government to update their list for nearly 2 years now, and it's been finally expanded to include cold-like symptoms. And hopefully this is going to lead to a reduction in infections. And really want to just thank all of you for your amazing contributions to this, which helped us identify these symptoms well ahead of everyone else. And we're still continuing this crucial study, and we want to thank everyone for their support, as well as particularly those who helped us crowdfunding at the very start. That kept us going and also prodded the government into action to fund us as well. Now, ZOE still needs all your daily reports and tests to continue to our good work to track these symptoms of COVID. But as always, let's cut to the chase and get to this week's data. So the news is that cases have started to come down, but as we saw last week, as predicted, at a fairly slow rate. They're not going down fast. We still have 322,000 cases a day, which is massive. And that's about an 8% drop on what we saw last week. The R number, that's the replication number, is only about 1, so it's fairly stable. And prevalence rates, that's the number of people who have COVID, is still at an all-time high of 1 in 14 people. I'm sure we all know people with COVID at the moment. And this is pretty even across most of the regions, as we'll quickly see. Now, deaths, been a slight decrease in deaths. Again, that's not the major concern at the moment. Hospitalizations are a bit, they're at over 2,000 a day, which is certainly not good. It's like having a sort of bad January all the time for those poor NHS workers. And that's going up a little bit every week. It's about 1,000 extra cases last week. Number of really severe people hasn't changed though, those on ventilators. Now, this graph tells us what's going on in the different age groups, and you can see the trends are pretty much quite similar. Younger people are reducing more than the older age groups, and the older age groups have looked like they've started to plateau. So it's going to take a while to make that shift any more meaningful. Now, across the regions, depending on where you live, probably not a big difference whether you live in England, Northern Ireland, Scotland, or Wales. Scotland went into this earlier and is probably, the rates are decreasing slightly faster than elsewhere, but nowhere's really going down fast like we saw before. So I think there's going to be a lot more COVID for a while than perhaps we've been expecting with these faster waves in the past. Now, coming back to symptoms, after all our nearly 2 years of lobbying, they finally did what we've been pestering to do. We think this should have happened over a year ago, really. And it would have saved, I think, many hospitalizations and lives, but it's a great vindication for what we've all been able to do together. But interesting, they updated their list of symptoms very quietly, very discreetly on a Sunday night, so they didn't have to apologize. There was no press release, no big song and dance about it, no real explanation of why they waited till April the 1st to do that. Although it's pretty obvious to everyone that that's when they stopped the free testing. Let's look at this government list in a bit more detail. So they've increased it, but they've still kept at the top of the list their top 3 symptoms that they've had on their list, which is the high temperature, the continuous cough, the loss or change to your sense of smell or taste. And they've just added other ones such as feeling tired or exhausted, aching body, headache, sore throat, blocked nose, loss of appetite, diarrhea, or feeling sick. And at the end, they say the symptoms are quite similar to other illnesses such as colds or flu. Obviously, they're trying to just say, well, these extra ones have added on. But of course, if you've been following our broadcast, you'll know that the list that we have shows a very different story. So that runny nose is over 82% of all positive cases at the moment, followed by fatigue, sore throat, headache, and sneezing. And the ones that the government are highlighting still only at number 6 for persistent cough, number 8 for chills or shivers, and fever, their sort of gold standard one. Only 32% of people have that at number 11. And of course, altered smell is only at number 15. The one we don't seem to completely agree on is diarrhea at the moment, which doesn't make it into our top 20. It's rarer than that. And yet the government have chosen to focus on that one. So anyway, good news is they've broadened this list. But of course, it's how that list is used that's also important. So the COVID impact really is now not on hospitals, it's on employers and employees. We're seeing all these flights being cancelled by British Airways and EasyJet. And we have to really start to get these guidance for employees much better. Now, the UK government did update their guidance for the workforce and staying off work. Again, they did this rather discreetly on a Friday, and it gives a slight mixed message. Again, it's not at all clear. These guidance is to stay at home and avoid contact with other people. And the key word is try and stay at home if you have symptoms of COVID plus a high temperature, or you don't feel well enough to go to work or do your normal activities. So it's leaving the door open for really someone to go in with a runny nose and a sore throat who feels they can do their job, and without giving really much reassurance to say, you know what, do the right thing, get a lateral flow test if you can, wear a proper FFP2 or 3 mask to stop your sneezing on people, and stay away from people for 5 days. And if you're a child, 3 days. This makes absolute sense. This wishy-washy advice really doesn't help at all. And just a reminder that the lateral flow data that we shared last week from your amazing results showed that a lateral flow test, when you have a symptoms of a cold, will be wrong 1 time in 5. So this means that 20% of the time when you test yourself, it'll be negative, when if you did a PCR test the same day, it would be positive. And so just to remind, when COVID is so high, it's even more likely that you've got COVID and not a cold. It is also very good at, it's unlikely to be a false positive either. So that's the other thing to remember. Other pointer is that if you're having trouble getting any of these lateral flow kits and you only get ones with a small stem, you can still swab your throat with that before you put it up your nose. It's always better to do both together. So in conclusion, I think it's great we've won one battle, updating symptoms, even if they're in the wrong order. I think that's a victory for us. Much more work to do in keeping symptoms on the agenda, and of course, linking that with guidance. We need to be vigilant because there will be new variants. We're seeing something called the XE variant has been picked up. So far, it hasn't taken over, and BA2 remains absolutely dominant. But of course, we're in a world where 1 in 14 people is currently infected, and these rates are going to be high for a long time. They're not going to go down much. So we've got to really pull together on this and work out how we can keep working, keep living, keep enjoying life whilst staying as safe as possible. So thanks again to everyone for their amazing contributions. Couldn't do it without you. And do remember to like and subscribe to the channel, share the app with people who haven't done it, and keep an eye on our website, etc. And finally, do support science and keep logging.